Assalamu alaikum fam, hope you're doing fantastic. So, we're continuing our overall book review of Suetonius, The Lives of the Caesars. He is still in the section about Gaius Julius Caesar, one of my most favorite figures of all history. Let's continue. Okay, so let's pick up. We were on, let's see, IX on page 4. The design was set upon the Senate at the opening of the year, and to put the sword as many as they thought good. Put to the sword as many as they thought good. So look at that. Caesar is like, hey, I'm going to put some people up. Then Crassus was to usurp the dictatorship, naming Caesar as his master of horse. And when they had organized the state according to their pleasure, the consulship was to be restored to Sulla and Artronius. Look at that. So Crassus wants to usurp the dictatorship, and Caesar being named master of his horse. Wow. This plot is mentioned by Tanisius Geminus in history, by Marcus Biblius in his edicts, and by Gaius Curio the elder in his speeches. So we have Tanusius Geminus, Marcus Biblius, and Gaius Curio. Cicero, too, seems to hint at it in a letter to Axius, where he says that Caesar in his consulship established the despotism which he had in mind when he was edile. Look at that. So Cicero was a little bit of a catty opponent towards Caesar. It's very famous. So despotism, let's see. Tanusius adds that Crassus, either conscience-stricken or moved by fear, did not appear on the day appointed for the massacre, and that therefore Caesar did not give the signal which it had been agreed that he would give. So Crassus didn't show up. And Curio says that the arrangement was that Caesar should let his toga fall from his shoulder. So the signal for the attack is that his toga should fall from his shoulder. Look at that. Not only Curio, but Marcus Actorius Naso as well declared that Caesar made another plot with Gnaeus Piso, a young man to whom the province of Spain had been assigned unasked. Okay, so Gnaeus Piso gets the province of Spain, and he's created another side plot with Caesar. Wow. And out of the regular order, because he was suspected of political intrigues at Rome, that they agreed to rise in revolt at the same time. Look at that. So Caesar and Gnaeus Piso have decided to team up and then both do their revolt at the same time. Piso abroad and Caesar at Rome, aided by the Ambrani and the peoples beyond the Po. But that Piso's death brought both their designs to naught. Wow, so look at that. Caesar was like, let's do this. I'll do it domestically. You do it on the foreign range. We'll have our allies, the Ambrani, and the peoples who are of the Po, but Piso dies. Look at that. Talk about plans ruined. When Adele, Caesar decorated not only Comitium and the Forum with its adjacent basilicas, but the capital as well, building temporary colonnades for the display of a part of his material. So look at that. So he's building basilicas and adding to the capital architecture. So he's really focusing on beautifying the Rome. He exhibited combats with wild beasts and staged plays too. So Caesar has done some games. So putting gladiators to fight wild animals. Let's talk about that. But also plays. So the theater. So he's both having relaxing entertainment and more action-based entertainment for the people, both with his colleague and independently, so funding it himself and then having colleagues as well. The result was that Caesar alone took all the credit, even for what they spent in common. Oh, that's kind of weird. Share the credit, man. And his colleague Marcus Biblius openly said that his was the fate of Pollux. For, said he, just as the temple erected in the Forum to the twin brethren, so the twin brethren is Romulus and Remus, okay? They were said to drink milk from a she-wolf and were to be the founders of Rome. Bears only the name of Castor, so the joint liberality of Caesar and myself is credited to Caesar alone, Caesar gave a gladiatorial show besides, but with somewhat fewer pairs of combatants than he had purposed. Okay, so gladiatorial games being promoted by Caesar. For the huge band which he assembled from all quarters so terrified his opponents. So the huge band. So he's assembling a lot of people to play in the games. That a bill was passed limiting the number of gladiators which anyone was to be allowed to keep in the city. Oh, that's pretty cool. Think about that for a second. So Caesar, man, I love this guy. He is calling in lots of gladiators to participate in these blood games for the people, right? And the, his enemies, his political enemies, they're a little afraid, you know? They're like, all these tough killers in the city. We gotta limit it. And then they want to put some, like, I can't have this many gladiators in the city. Very interesting. Cicero was probably like, you know, he's a smart guy, no doubt. But Cicero is no gladiator and he is no general. That is really cool. Oh my goodness. Having won the goodwill of the masses, Caesar made an attempt through some of the tribunes to have the charge of Egypt given him by a decree of commons, seizing the opportunity to ask for so irregular an appointment because the citizens of Alexandria had deposed their king. So look at that. So Caesar's talking to the tribunes. He's like, hey, give me some control over Egypt, man. And let's work it out. The decree of the commons. And it seems to be an irregular appointment, they say, even though the citizens of Alexandria are like, we don't want our king. Let's see what else happens. Who had been named by the Senate an ally and friend of the Roman people. So look at that. So at this time, Alexandria, which was founded by the Ptolemies, who were part of Alexander the Great's campaign. Okay, Alexandria was named after Alexander, and Ptolemy is the biological ancestor of Cleopatra. Okay, who ends up having a child with Caesar, and also ends up falling in love with Caesar's friend, Mark Antony. Okay, just so that you refresh your memory. And their action was generally condemned. He failed, however, because of the opposition of the aristocratic party. So the aristocrats were like, no, Caesar, you ain't gonna be in charge of Egypt. So they denied him. Wishing, therefore, to impair their prestige in every way he could. So see how Caesar is going against the aristocrats. So notice this. Caesar is giving the people's blood games and theater and calling in gladiators into the city, and the aristocrats really are not happy with him. He restored the trophies commemorating the victories of Gaius Marius over Jugurtha. Okay, so notice this. So the trophies of Gaius Marius, he recommemorates them. Interesting. And over Cimbri and Teutoni, which Sulla had long since demolished. So think about this politically here. Sulla took down Gaius Marius's trophies. Okay? Gaius Marius, he was able to overcome the Cimbri, the Teutoni, and the Jugurtha, and then Caesar reinstating those sends a message as well. So every action Caesar takes has a potent sting to it. So he definitely he wanted to take a jab back at the prestige of the aristocrats there. Furthermore, in conducting prosecutions for murder, he included in the number of murderers even those who had received monies from the public treasury during the proscriptions for bringing in the heads of Roman citizens. So proscriptions for bringing in the heads of Roman citizens. So if you got money, you'd be included. Although they were exempted by the Cornelian laws. So we have Cornelian laws. So the Cornelian laws said, hey, if you got money from the treasury on those bounties of fellow Roman citizens, you're exempt. But Caesar said no. So obviously the aristocrats aren't going to like that, right? He also bribed a man to bring a charge of high treason against Gaius Rabirius, who some years before had rendered conspicuous service to the Senate in repressing the seditious designs of the tribune Lucius Saturnius. Look at that name, Lucius Saturnius. So he claims he was bribed, right? This is where you get into the point of it's fair to assume, yes, Caesar is going to pay some people, is going to be some bribery, but also the author himself is, he wants to add a little in there. It could have been an arrangement, it could have been a deal, but apparently Caesar has paid Gaius Rabirius to give someone a charge of treason. Wow. Seditious designs of tribune Lucius Saturnius. And when he had been selected by lot to sentence the accused, he did so with such eagerness that when Rabirius appealed to the people, nothing was so much in his favor as the bitter hostility of his judge. So look at that. Such eagerness. So it was so potent to the point where it's like, there's just all this bitter hostility. Wow. After giving up hope of the special commission, he announced his candidacy for the office of Pontifex Maximus, restoring to the most lavish bribery. Ooh, lavish bribery. That's some strong language there. Office of Pontifex Maximus. Thinking on the enormous debt which he had thus contracted, he is said to have declared to his mother, on the morning of the election, as she kissed him when she was starting for the polls, that he would never return except as Pontifex. And in fact, he so decisively defeated two very strong competitors, for they were greatly his superiors in age and rank, that he polled more votes in their tribes than were cast for both of them in all the tribes. So here, you can kind of see what he's getting at here. So he won an election against people who were older and had more merit to have won it. And that's where you get the examples of lavish bribery. If you're going to pay to get into the office of Pontifex Maximus, you're going to have to spend so much to kind of shift those votes in your favor. So, yeah, interesting. When the conspiracy of Catiline was detected, the rest of the Senate favored inflicting the extreme penalty on those implicated in the plot. So an extreme penalty. So the Senate is not very happy. Caesar, who was now praetor-elect, so now he's praetor, alone proposed that their goods be confiscated. Oh, snap. And that they be imprisoned each in a separate town. Oh my gosh. Look at that. So Caesar's like, oh my goodness. So now he's in the office of praetor, right? And he wants their goods to be confiscated and they should be imprisoned in separate towns. Wow. This is 63 BC. Wow. Look at that. Caesar, such a fascinating figure in history. So the Cornelian laws, Gaius, Marius, Jugurtha, Cimbri, Teutoni, citizens of Alexandria deposing their own king. Caesar wanted to be in charge of Egypt. Man, fantastic. Lots of gladiatorial shows.